Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, May the 25th, and there's one primary thing I'm going to talk about today, and this is the beneficial rain we could be seeing this week. And I think a good place to start with this is to look at the drought monitor across the country. Guys, looking at the current drought conditions across the U.S., you'll notice that we have extreme drought over much of the southeast here. And again, if we go, let's say, east of Texas here into Arkansas, Louisiana, back into Florida, up through the states of North and South Carolina, into the state of Virginia, you see a lot of red here on the map, and that's showing extreme drought. Now, for portions of the Ozarks here in Arkansas, you see this deep red here. And then also down into southern Georgia and northern Florida, we have another area here of exceptional drought. Now, one of the major short-term effects here is the growing season. So when you're thinking about crops, you're thinking about feeding your animals, this is a major impact in the short term across the states of the Southeast. But another long-term issue here is just the water table itself and the amount of groundwater that's going to be available here. Let's say if you have wells here across the Southeast, and even this water that's being made available to the public, a lot of this is taking a hit here across the Southeast, with many people saying this is the worst drought they've seen in 20, maybe 25 years here. Now, of course, the drought's not limited to just the East Coast. We have over here in the southern plains here, back into the Rockies, northern Texas, Oklahoma, portions of New Mexico, Colorado. We've got a large area of severe drought out here, and even some exceptional drought here marked in deep red or maroon on the map. And this is throughout the Intermountain West. We can see here in western Colorado in particular, we have this really large area here of deep red across the state. Again, exceptional drought going into that Colorado River region. But broadly speaking, you can see that there's a large area of drought here across the West. But also of note here, if we look over much of the Midwest here, if you're over portions of Missouri, back into Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, even back into parts of the Northeast here in the Pennsylvania and New York State, maybe far northern Vermont here, conditions are basically normal. So we've had adequate rainfall, and especially the temperatures have not been as warm here across the Midwest and the Northeast. Again, many of these areas that are experiencing drought have been in the 80s and 90s for quite a long time now. And the big question moving forward is, are we going to see some relief to this drought in these areas that we just talked about? So let's kind of get into that now. Guys, taking a look at Monday morning and Tuesday morning here across the mid-Atlantic, we can see that we have a couple of rounds of showers and thunderstorms, both in the morning and during the afternoon here across central Virginia. And of course, we're seeing showers and thunderstorms possible here from Mississippi into Georgia. Some of these quite heavy here over Alabama, so we could see areas picking up close to an inch of rain in some places here. Now, early Monday, we're going to see rain exiting the Northeast across New York City, up through Interstate 95 in Boston, as far north and east as Maine here, so a quarter to a half an inch is possible, even across the Northeast during the day Monday. And again, this will probably be during the early morning hours Monday across the Northeast. Now, the big winner here during the day Monday is going to be over the Southeast here. We can see anywhere from, in deep blue, a half an inch of rain to as much as an inch of rain in some places here. Again, from Louisiana up through the Carolinas, even into the state of Virginia. Now, it points to the north over West Virginia and to Pennsylvania. You see lesser amounts of rain, but you guys saw rainfall during the day Sunday. Now, guys, I do want to point out this other area of rain between Nebraska and Iowa. Again, over central Nebraska, we could see upwards of a half an inch of rain here as well. Now, another area of beneficial rainfall could occur over northeastern parts of Arizona, let's say north and east of Flagstaff here, back into much of New Mexico from Monday afternoon into Tuesday morning. I was reading about Rio Grande River Valley. This area in particular could have the wind set up just right, we could see some decent rainfall totals here. So if you live anywhere between Albuquerque and Santa Fe, New Mexico, could pick up some decent rainfall totals over the next day or so. In fact, when we look at the rainfall totals here, again over the Rio Grande River Valley, we're seeing this darker area of blue and even some lighter blues, indicating anywhere between a half an inch and an inch of rainfall here over portions of New Mexico. Again, you guys are in a drought here, especially over the northern part of the state. So again, we're kind of rooting for this area getting a bit more than what we're seeing here. in the current totals map. Now, looking at the big picture, we do have a trough moving onshore here in the northwest, and this is going to be presenting the chance of rainfall here across Washington State and Oregon State. Now, we're generally talking about 1/10 of an inch or less if you live in the big cities of Portland and also Seattle. But portions here of the western coast of Washington into Oregon State, along the coast here could pick up 1/2 inch or more of rainfall during the day Monday. And of course, looking at the rainfall totals map here in western Washington State over the Olympics, anywhere between 1/2 inch and 1 inch of rainfall will be common here. And of course, lesser amounts as you move inland across Washington State. Now, this is not entirely true, right? As we move inland, we can see over the Cascades here, the southern Cascades from Washington State into Oregon State, another area of about 1/4 to 1/2 inch of rain in general here. Now, for our friends to the north here, especially into the higher elevations around Vancouver, get 1/2 inch to 1 inch of rain is not out of the question here. Well, guys, now to the question of the day. What is a shortwave trough, and why is it important to track them? Now, guys, if you look off to the bottom right-hand corner, you can see this map that's illustrating a large trough over the western United States. So you kind of make out the dip here in red. But also what's occurring here are these little indentations within the trough. And these little indentations, or these little dips more or less, are called short waves. And these more or less are little pockets of energy that move along the larger trough. And they can actually move at a higher rate or a faster speed than the trough itself. And all these shortwaves have the ability to generate showers and even thunderstorms during the spring and summer months. And of course, some of these are easier to pick up on others. If we look over the northeast in particular, you can make out this much larger dip here. And out ahead of it is where we typically see the showers and thunderstorms. So somewhere to the east downstream of these is where you see the activity. Now, all this to say, I want us to kind of identify the larger trough and then these short waves within it to identify areas of showers and thunderstorms that could form as we move from Monday into Wednesday this week. Now, if we look at the day Monday, we can see a trough beginning to move into the west coast here. You can kind of make out a large dip, right, moving into the west coast. But also downstream, if we go towards the Great Lakes region, we can actually see a larger trough here over the northeast as well. Now, what's going to be hard to see as we move from May to June and even into July are these pronounced areas, these short waves, right, within the larger troughs. So one I want to point out to you right now is over the Midwest. So as we move into the day Monday, you can make out the smallest indentation here from Minnesota into Wisconsin. And even that by itself is considered like a short wave, and that could generate showers and thunderstorms around it. So some of these can be quite small. An area that's easier to pick out here is over the state of California. You kind of see here this yellow feature, more of a dip here over Northern California. So you can imagine an area of showers and possibly thunderstorms out ahead of it here, possibly over California and back into Nevada, perhaps as far north and east as a state like Idaho. But broadly speaking, we're seeing these lower heights move into the northwest over Washington State and Oregon State, and that's producing that area of rainfall, right, during the day Monday here over the west. But guys, it's also important to note here that we need to take a look at the flow at the surface, right, around high pressure and low pressure that occur. It's not simply the trough ridge pattern, right, that we need to look at. It's also the flow that sets up at the surface around it. And in general, we have high pressure here. Again, it's kind of off the screen, but kind of imagine it here off the East Coast. And you see these black lines, right, that are kind of moving around it. And the flow generally is from out of the southeast back towards the northwest if you're looking off the East Coast here. But you'll also notice as you move off to the west how it's more of a southerly to northerly flow, right, that's coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. And that's bringing in all this moisture to the southeast and creating that shower and thunderstorm activity, right, that we're seeing over the east during the day Monday. We could see some severe weather here over western Texas as we get into Tuesday afternoon. And we'll take a look here in a moment at the Storm Prediction Center and what they're suggesting. But a lot of it's going to have to do with that shortwave diving into the southwest. And this will likely continue into the day Wednesday. We'll see a more prominent shortwave develop over northern Texas, perhaps into Oklahoma. And this feature will likely extend that severe weather threat into, let's say, Kansas and Oklahoma, perhaps even further northward here. So it'll be something to watch as we get towards midweek. Also, take a look here off to the west over California and Nevada. We have this area of really low heights over the west coast here. And more importantly, for severe weather, we have a low pressure perhaps developing over Utah. And what that will do is work to drag in moisture into, let's say, the states of Montana and also Wyoming. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have severe weather here into Montana and Wyoming as well during the day Wednesday. And finally, I do want to point out that we still have this high pressure off the coast here. And because of clockwise flow around the high pressure system, we'll still have an abundance of Gulf moisture moving into the southern states, which again is good news over portions of Texas into Oklahoma, Arkansas. You guys will probably continue to receive rainfall at this point in the week. Now, taking a look at the Storm Prediction Center, we can see the severe thunderstorm potential during the day Monday, and it's rather small. We have a marginal outlook here over northern Florida, perhaps into southern Georgia. Again, primarily beneficial rainfall, maybe some gusty winds, maybe some hail, but no threat of tornadoes here in southern Georgia. Same thing up here in parts of Nebraska and to Iowa. There's the potential here for some small hail and maybe some gusty winds in these areas. And then even over New Mexico. This area might be the most interesting area to take a look at on Monday. One of the things I was reading about is that the moisture that we're seeing over New Mexico is actually far greater than normal, even for this time of year over that area. Now, if we look at the day Tuesday, we can see how the severe weather threat has increased over West Texas. And we could see again strong gusty winds, hail, and maybe even an isolated tornado as we get into Tuesday afternoon. Now, this is due in large part to that trough, right, diving into the southwest. It's kind of got this negative tilt to it as it pushes into the southwest here, pointing in the direction of where that severe weather activity could take place. Another area we're starting to watch during the day Tuesday is over Montana. And this could continue into the day Wednesday here over Montana, perhaps into northern portions of Wyoming, as a low pressure takes shape over the state of Utah during the day Wednesday. So just keep that in mind as we're looking towards midweek. But in general, a large area here, right, of the potential for afternoon thunderstorms here. And we're talking about much of the lower 48 here. Now, if you live into, let's say, portions of the Midwest into the Northeast, some drier conditions during the day Tuesday. But again, over the Southeast, we need this rain, so this is very beneficial and welcome. Well, guys, looking at Tuesday to Thursday here afternoon, we can see that there's a lot of rainfall, especially during the day Tuesday. And we have severe thunderstorms popping up over West Texas, moving into Eastern Texas during the day Wednesday. And we think that's going to be in large part due to that trough moving out of the west. Take a look again at these storms that develop late in the day Tuesday and move across much of Texas into Louisiana throughout the day Wednesday. And again, we could see a good deal of severe thunderstorms popping up over central Texas into eastern Texas. And we're talking about strong gusty winds. We're talking about large hail possible in this region. But also take a note of these lines here, these red lines off to the north and east. Notice how they're kind of dipping back towards the south and west here. That's going to actually help to build some high pressure here, possibly over the Great Lakes region, and tend to dry out, let's say, the industrial belt here between Illinois and New York State. So we could see some drying out conditions possibly into the mid-Atlantic as we move into the day Thursday, so perhaps a lull in the action there as we head beyond Wednesday. But you can see here with the trough moving in over the west, there's a general chance of showers and thunderstorms moving into California, Nevada, north and eastward into Idaho, and perhaps into Montana through the day Thursday. Well, guys, we'll leave it at that today. I hope you enjoyed today's forecast. And of course, if you have a good answer here about what a shortwave trough is, you can leave those down in the comments below. And I'll respond to that hopefully in the next day or two. And if you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like or subscribe as it does help the channel. And if you are subscribed, hit the bell icon. That will alert you to any new video that's been posted. Otherwise, guys, I hope you have a great Memorial Day and a great week. Bye for now.